The original concept of multiple intelligences was coined by Howard Gardner, a Harvard professor of psychology, in 1983. Gardner noticed that people who had suffered brain injuries were still capable of performing at high levels in specific areas. He coined these areas as abilities and defined them under 8 different umbrellas: logical, mathematical, linguistic, musical. In other words, the 8 multiple intelligences. Rather than think of students as intelligent because they can do their multiplication tables, for instance, Gardner suggests that students are gifted in different areas. A student experiencing memory difficulties may do well with a hands-on activity. The theory of multiple intelligences was largely adopted by teachers in the 1980s, after Gardner published his book, Multiple Intelligences. Teachers saw an opportunity to bring creativity in the classroom, to look at lessons from 8 different angles rather than one. Recently, the works of Thomas Armstrong have provided digestible and concrete examples of MI lesson planning. Multiple intelligences in the classroom guides teachers through the process of lesson planning from 8 different angles. Furthermore, Armstrong touches on the possibility of eliminating learning disabilities by understanding that all students have individual needs. Over the last 2 decades, multiple intelligences have become a mainstream pedagogy in the educational field. They've opened our mind to the prospect that students aren't one-dimensional learners. They aren't good in one subject and poor in another. Rather, all students can succeed in math if they're given the right outlet. MI creates a framework for students as individual learners. It encourages teachers to work with the students, modeling real-world learning.
Verbal linguistic intelligence is really our intelligence of how do we use the word, how do we communicate. And communication skills is one of the 4 C's in 21st century skills, like creativity, collaboration, critical thinking skills. Communication is also one such. One that falls under the verbal linguistic intelligence. And there's many ways in which we can build it. We build up our verbal linguistic intelligence actually over a lifetime, how much we read. There's so much emphasis on reading because it expands our vocabulary, our syntax, how we use our grammar. It exposes us to so many worlds that we don't have access to. And when we write, and there's different types of writing, how do we write for information, how do we write a narrative, how do we write a description, how do we express ourselves. So there is a lot of practice that we need to give throughout schooling for verbal linguistic intelligence, and it is kind of a culmination of everything that we do in our schooling over the years that really gives us an edge in our verbal linguistic intelligence. And these communication skills are what will maybe give us that position in the student council or help us land our first job, and not just our qualifications. For instance, the verbal linguistic intelligence covers how we use the spoken and the written word. How do we speak? How do we express ourselves? How do we articulate? How do we verbalize